People can't find fulfilling work. People can't find jobs.
They enter into a role within an industry after college, doing something for a long time, and then they don't realize oh, this isn't actually what I want to be doing.
I think a lot of the universities, they're going to have to innovate.
With the co-founders of Audo, Ahmed and Andrew, we're going to talk about why we co-founded this company, why we're excited about the future of career tech.
We're going to provide you advice on how to improve yourself, how to get additional skills.
The bottom line is, whether you're a community college, a public university, a private university, if you're not evolving at the pace of popular culture, you're just not going to survive.
Hello, we are here with the co-founders of Audo, Ahmed and Andrew, at TechCrunch 2023. And we're going to talk about why we co-founded this company, why we're excited about the future of career tech, a little bit about what we've been learning about what the current VC climate is like, what the current tech climate is like, and just in general talking about our stories and why we're excited to be building here. So maybe we start there. We all have really interesting educational experiences. I talk a lot publicly about my educational experience going to Colorado College, the school you take one class at a time for 3.5 weeks, and why I wanted to go there so I could, be an entrepreneur and create startups at the same time. But I'd love to hear from you both. Maybe we start with Andrew, because you are now the CTO of Audo and you've been a technologist for some time, but you started off as a lawyer, right?
Yes, indeed. Well, I started off in college studying business and computer information systems as well as management. So I was doing tech, but then I decided to go to law school. Got my law license, and then after getting my law license, I worked in law for a few years, doing a number of different things, but it wasn't something that I loved. It wasn't something I had a passion for. I wanted to do startup, I loved being in the entrepreneurial field. I wanted to be in business. I loved technology. I was building websites for quite some time, and I decided to shift careers, and then wound up here several years later at Audo.
Yeah, and Andrew's background is actually one of the more interesting backgrounds that I've personally come across because you don't see many lawyers who get into tech. Yeah. And more so, especially as with his background, lawyers who get into tech and he can code and he can do data science, a little bit of product. So yeah, I was fascinated, and we save a lot of money. Yes, when it comes to reviewing contracts and stuff like that. So it worked out.
Next, I think we should start with your career path and your background.
Yeah, mine's a bit interesting. I worked for an investment bank, which was the thing to do in the early 2000s as a business major. I did that for the first almost 7 years after college. Loved it. I grew professionally. I grew financially. Although I hated it for the first 6 months of my life. And the individuals that I worked for, the two partners, very much were and are still role models for me. I still keep in contact with them. And that was just a job that I thought I was going to retire in. And 6 years into it, I got an opportunity to relocate to Dubai, work for a startup. Didn't really know kind of what that was like. Startups was never on my radar. Didn't know much about that part of the world. I figured I'd go there and do a 2-year contract. And make a long story short, I moved there, met my wife, got married, had 3 kids, fell into education, where I worked really the entire kind of education spectrum.
You fell into education, but you had a your family was predominantly in education, right?
Which was interesting because I grew up in a household of educators. So my sister's a principal where my kids now go to school. My brother-in-law is a gym and English teacher. My mother was always involved in the local school council where I attended school, and my sister-in-laws are both substitute teachers. So education was always kind of on the dinner table, but I never ever envisioned being in education. Nonetheless, ed tech, given that I was focused on being in a business field and industry. So when I fell into education, although I was on the business side of education, it was something new to me. It was in a new region. I picked it up relatively quickly, became successful. And that's why when I kind of met you guys were crazy enough to want to solve this massive problem that everyone really knows, but everybody prances around and no one really wants to kind of talk about and discuss, which is less and less people are going to college, less and less are graduating, the costs are becoming very prohibitive. And the end result is no skills and no jobs.
Yeah.
Yet you have all these innovations and online learning and upskilling, but the end result is still the same. People can't find fulfilling work. People can't find jobs. People are going and spending years of their time and their hard earnings and their family's hard earnings and leaving these historic institutions lost, not knowing what they want to do, in a shit ton of debt, right? And aren't being able to contribute to society. And obviously, as we all know, that's a big, big problem. And that's what we're trying to solve.
That's what we're trying to solve for. And it's interesting because when we met when we were just starting to integrate courses into what we had been building. Andrew and I had met about a year prior to that. And we had been building, I guess, the early version of that, right? Like this idea that we were trying to bridge together all of like the different educational providers that existed on the internet, with this idea that like if we could stitch together all of the course material and offer them up, then it would be so easy for people to like be able to get some certificates and start making money on a marketplace. And it was from this like idea that the gig work and freelance marketplaces were going to be the place, right? To be able to get like your first few jobs to build up a resume of work. But that ended up being really challenging. And I think it's because of a problem that you saw actually when you were leaving from Coursera, right? Which was like these courses that some of these creators are creating have really low retention rates. Mm-hmm. And we're in like this interesting era now where so much of how people are learning and consuming content is in like short form content. Like even us making these episodes today, the majority of the way people are going to consume them are in short form, not the whole length video on YouTube. Let alone when we're talking about courses like textbooks, you know, being like written and people having to consume those online and seeing how COVID changed how people perceive learning altogether. What was it that was really exciting to you about being able to join a startup like Audo and come work on this problem that you were seeing at like that level?
You know, I always tell people the thing that drove me to join you guys on this mission was that you both were actually crazy enough to even think that you could solve this problem. Mm. And for me, that was enough, right? That you actually have the full faith and belief to know that you could build some really cool tech to solve a massive problem. And mind you, at the time, we were just beginning to come out of COVID, and a lot's changed since. A lot's changed for us as we've pivoted. Yeah. A lot's changed in the economy. A lot's changed in the VC world. We've learned quite a bit over this past 3 years, obviously for good.
When we started building Audo, the first version, or like we were pivoting,
Dormzy at the time, yeah.
We had Dormzy, which was like a college-focused product, and once we realized that for colleges, the college was just not even a part of the equation we wanted to solve for, like they were a part of the problem. Mm-hmm. That next iteration product started with this idea that we needed to assess people. Like we needed to get them to come in and answer questions about who they are, what they're interested in, and so on, to be able to get enough data on them to even start to help solve their problems. And this was before ChatGPT was a thing. Yep. This was before like this big AI boom happened, and it was this clear, like we saw this coming. We were saying like, okay, we're going to use AI to solve this problem because we want it to be really adaptive. We didn't want to be an assessment like the SAT or something that's like trying to put you in a hole, but rather how do we create a world of curriculum around you, or a world of like career path designed to who you are, your personality, experience, and so on. With ChatGPT and AI coming up now, like how much of what we do now do you think is just like fundamentally changed forever? Like, you know, we thought about how we would use AI and apply it, but because of how the industry has evolved, how much of our approach do you think is changing day in and day out?
Well, I think our approach, something like ChatGPT, or it's going to help a lot of our company just become more efficient in a lot of different workers. But I mean, for us, we're still building models that we're going to come up with highly personalized career paths for individuals, building a knowledge graph. These things we were building before it was coming out. So we're building things in a similar way as to how, you know, OpenAI is doing it. So it's not like we don't have to necessarily change our tactics, but I mean, I do think it helps make things a little bit more efficient, that we're able to, you know, utilize a resource such as OpenAI to help augment some of the work that we're currently doing.
So the problem of helping someone find if it's their first job or even their next job, is multifaceted, as we've been learning in the process of working with people really closely, right? Like we launched this beta, and every user that we're working with is like, it's a handheld process before we go and build the automated tech to solve their problems. So we know there's several components, right? There's like the resume problem, interview prep,
Job search,
following up with recruiters or following up with people at the company. And
what skills you need,
yes.
what I want to do.
So which part of that puzzle do you think is like most important to focus on, at least for right now?
I don't necessarily look at it from the lens of what's most important. I look at it from the perspective of we're doing something that's custom tailored and personalized to that individual. And if you look at what other institutions and companies and organizations have been attempting to do but haven't changed since forever, if you look at universities, for example, right? Ideally, your career counselor is supposed to help you figure out what you're good at, recommend a certain major to you, recommend certain classes to you, recommend you to attend career fairs, help you with your resume work, and then ideally by the time you graduate, you should know what you want to do and have already built that skill set. Obviously, that's not happening, right?
We know there's like one career counselor or one like college prep person for every like 200 students on average in the US.
Yeah. Exactly. And
you only gave the school $300,000, $400,000. You got to give them $600,000 to get that.
Well, I mean that, but also, I mean, when you look at the career counselor, and nothing against them, right? How are they qualified to be able to assess, every career path for someone? If you're interested in AI, but your career counselor comes from an HR background, how are they ideally going to help you, right? You look at recruiters and headhunters. Their interest is really not in getting you
the best fit,
the best fit for your personality. Their job is getting you the quickest job, as soon as possible, so they can get paid. Yeah. Even if you go up to like the C-levels, right? These headhunters, how many conversations do they have with you, right? All they want to know is what you've done and how much you want to make, and they're going to try to match that job offer to your salary expectations. It's not necessarily about what you're going to be best at or how you're going to excel or what you're going to be most successful doing. And so for me, being able to join our users in wherever they're at in their journey, whether it's, hey, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know how long it's going to take me, I don't know what I'm good at, I don't know how to get there, or it's, hey, I'm a good product designer, and I just want to know what are the latest technologies within my field to help me move up. Or actually, I'm making decent money, I'm happy where I'm at, but I just want to get a different job, and I've been interviewing like crazy, and I don't know why I'm not getting any jobs. Or I'm applying to hundreds and thousands of jobs a month, and I'm being ghosted, right? And for me, what I love about what we're building is that our solution can join you at any point in your journey and help you not only reach your destination, but once you reach it, it'll help you think about, all right, what's next for me, right? Now I've reached my director role, right? What's next for me? Let me focus on my soft skills. Let me figure out how to motivate people, how to lead and manage teams, right? Most people don't think like that.
It's interesting, when we were at this conference, as we've been at TechCrunch, one of the people we were pitching this to, she asked me like, what's the difference between this and a career coach? And I was like, there's honestly, between us and the professional great career coach, maybe there isn't much difference except for the fee. We charge, $39 a month, and a career coach that like you hire is going to be thousands of dollars, like a legitimate career coach. And she was like, yeah, that's true. Or they take a commission of the next job if they're a recruiter and they're helping you find that job. And that's the beauty of what we get to do, right? Build using tech to make things more affordable and at scale. But a lot of people don't even know that that's what they need, is a career coach. They like enter into a role within an industry after college, and they end up somewhere doing something for a long time, and then they don't realize like, oh, this isn't actually what I want to be doing, or even along the right path to get into the industry or the field I want to go to. And there's a lot of wasted time. And I think that's in large part what I care a lot about helping solve, is the wasted time, whether it's going to school and just studying something because that's what society wants from you, and then only to recognize you could have just started out, in the mailroom where you wanted to be, without the debt and without the wasted time is kind of everything. What about like, our users, or like the pain points they experience, do you guys like feel vehemently on? Like you feel it intensely?
Well, I think the frustration not hearing back from any roles when they're applying for jobs, I think. And another one is we've had a couple of users that on our platform that I don't think they really knew what they wanted to do. They would provide a resume that
Or they
read,
thought they knew what they wanted
they
to do.
thought they knew. They would provide a resume that said software engineer, and it read like a QA, manual tester. And I'm like, and they didn't even enjoy either. So they're pursuing a career that they think they're supposed to be doing, but they're putting together a resume from their past work that reads nothing like they even think they're supposed to be doing. Yet they're real
Graphic designer.
graphic designers. That's their real passion. That's the thing they enjoy doing, but they didn't even know they can make a career out of it.
Yeah, and that's very common, by the way. They're applying for X, their resume reads like Y, and they're great at Z. And they don't actually see that the three don't align. All they see is, hey, I've applied for, and these are real numbers, I've applied for 1,200 jobs this month, and I haven't even received a single rejection. It's a very common problem. On average, the users we talk to, they're applying for 100 to 150 jobs a day, and these are individuals who are unemployed.
And this is just through LinkedIn, like mass applying, like no tailoring of the experience.
LinkedIn, Indeed,
Same resume,
Monster, all the major players.
So some would say, like, people who aren't from the Silicon Valley tech world who are insane to an extent would be like, you're insane that you think you can solve this problem that like LinkedIn couldn't solve, and that like Indeed is are not getting right somehow. What do we say to that? Like, what do you guys think about why these companies are failing and like how we're going to be able to do it differently?
Well, most importantly, we're succeeding. We've had recent users of our platform that I think just recently I spoke to an individual who received a lot of success, and then his smile was as wide as my screen when I was speaking to him on Zoom.
That's amazing.
And when you see faces like that, when he nearly almost doubled his salary.
Yeah.
And he's working in a career where he was telling me 10 years ago I didn't even think I'd be in America, let alone making six figures. Well above six figures.
Yeah.
Well above 6 figures, and he's like working at a company or an institution like
Ivy
Harvard
League University
that he never would have imagined a couple of years ago he'd be doing. So I think we're proving success. So where the other ones are failing, it's not, we're showing that we can do it. We've been successful with quite a number of our product market fit users, and I'm confident we'll be successful for a long time to come in continuing to pursue our journey of helping people find fulfilling, high-paying work.
So as we've been crafting our pitch and we've been talking about like how to really articulate the problem we're trying to solve for, because it's so multifaceted, one of the clear points of like trying to create a unicorn company is like, this is a massive opportunity that people are missing. There's a market that we know about that other people don't. And you've been really articulate about this problem recently, which is that there's actually a literal gap in the economy that could exist of potential increase in GDP for states, for government, let alone people, because they're in the wrong jobs. And they don't know they're in the wrong jobs because they're getting by, they're making some money, but they're not passionate about it, they're not applying themselves to it.
They're getting by.
They're getting by. They don't aspire for more, per se. If we could help them figure out what the best job is for them and match with that, it would be an incredible boom for the economy, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about skills-based hiring nowadays. I mean, the fact that not only private sector, but also government are no longer requiring degrees to fill these roles, which obviously you can't blame them. Again, with the pace of automation and technology and innovation happening every single day, there are massive job shortages all over the world across a number of different industries. So these organizations have no choice but to hire people based off of skill. You couple that with an aging workforce, people retiring during and after the pandemic, you have a massive skill shortage across the world, and it needs to be filled. And this is where we come into play.
This is one of my favorite questions, actually, is like, what happens to like the universities and the college systems? Like, what are our bets? We gotta make predictions.
The strong will survive. I don't think the historic institutions are going away anytime soon. But at the same time, you have Harvard, for example, that during the pandemic reached into its fund for the first time in its history. A lot of these organizations are now transitioning their curriculum into online learning, which 15 years ago was inconceivable. They're adapting, and those who are agile enough and have the money to do so will survive, and those who don't won't. I also think that you'll start to see a big focus on technical and vocational skills. So you'll start to see a lot more of these traditional schools that were big after, during the post-war eras come back to life, and people will start getting back into a lot of these, blue collar roles.
Interesting. All right, that's a fair prediction. What's yours?
I mean, I think I agree with everything Ahmed said. I think a lot of the universities, they're going to have to innovate. The bottom feeders will be gone. And then you'll have in ways that
The
they
bottom feeders. So who are the bottom feeders in the university system?
Well, I mean...
Are they're private or public?
It's a mix of both.
It's a mix of both.
I mean, it's certainly a mix of both where they're wasting resources. And a lot of these universities, well, I think every university you go to, they're teaching you theory, as we've discussed many times before. They're teaching you theory. They're not actually teaching you how to be like a software developer. They're teaching you computer science theory. They need to start teaching you how to do the job, as you were saying, the vocational schools. But maybe they transition a 4-year school becomes a 2-year school. Like they have to do it and realize that, teach them within 2 years how to become workable, how to get a job, how to be in your career. I mean, but really, it's not our job to fix the schools because the schools are just so backwards. Maybe they'll become like the hardline phone where they'll be gone.
I mean, the bottom line is whether you're a community college, a public university, a private university, if you're not evolving at the pace of popular culture, you're just not going to survive.
I think that the top elite universities end up staying what they always have been, which is elite social clubs for networking. You go there to get a network of people, but that and this is actually something a VC said to me when pitching. This is someone you actually introduced me to. You probably remember.
Yeah, I do. I know what you're talking about.
And we went and we pitched, and she told me, I don't want my kids to go to college or university unless they get into an Ivy League university. I'm not paying for it. I'd rather spend that money on them building and failing, trying to create 3 different businesses. And it was like an interesting moment. I was like, why? And she's like, because the only thing you're getting is a network. Every other skill that you would need, you're going to learn from the workforce, unless you've decided that you want to spend your life as a doctor or a lawyer or something else. And she was like, but I don't want my kid to be a doctor or a lawyer who's like working those hours. So, if I want them to be a business owner, then it's very interesting.
You know what they say, you're only as good as your network, right? So if you went to community college, your network probably isn't going to be as good as somebody who went to, a top 50 ranked university.
Right.
And the reality is nowadays, most people can afford college or university. And I mean, the bottom line is unless they start putting these students through these institutions with real skills that can translate into a job right away, they're not going to survive. That's the bottom line in an affordable manner.
There's a lot of wasted dollars, I'm assuming, for these community colleges and such, because we even struggle to get people to complete our courses that are made by the employers. Meta teaches courses, IBM, Google, and so on. And it's like, Coursera has what are their completion rates?
Very low.
Very low. Less than 10%, let's say. And so this is public information. They're the public
just the MOOCs in general, not just any particular provider.
You're right. I shouldn't pinpoint them. But in general, these large course creators have low completion rates, and it doesn't and they're creating courses with the employer. So let alone the community college degree having low value, and I'm sure maybe low retention even from the students.
I mean, listen, everyone has their niche, right? I mean, you look at all these MOOCs, really great content, really great university and corporate partners.
Is it great content?
Well, that's what I'm getting to, right? They some have 100 million users a year, but how relevant is your good content if after I've completed it and after I've finished the course that was 40 hours, I can't get a job?
Yeah.
And our users are telling us that, hey, listen, a course that's an hour is boring. I'm not interested in listening to Professor X from a top-ranked business school teach me accounting. I'd rather go follow a creator who's really engaging and do 10, 15-minute intervals on my way to work while I'm on the train, because guess what? That's what relates to me, and that's who I follow, and that's who I connect with. There's no connection between somebody who's 22 and who's a brilliant, game developer and a 60-year-old professor at Harvard who is a Nobel laureate. Yeah. Those days are gone.
Yeah. And what's even more interesting, I think, for us as a company is how we've had to focus really hard on that core demographic, right? we can say that this is a very clear problem for a lot of Americans, for a lot of people around the world, being in the wrong job, not knowing which to go for, not knowing which educational option to take, all of those being a myriad of problems. But the core demographic that we've gone after and chased, because they're so intrinsically motivated,
They're hungry
to work hard and to either, whether it's studying, whether it's applying a job, it doesn't matter what they put their time toward, they just want to try, are immigrants.
Oh yeah.
All three of us, being first gen, I think have some relatability to the users that we're going after. Not as immigrants directly, but having seen the level of dedication, I guess, our parents and hard work have put towards building a life. And I think even to an extent, it translates to us and like how we show up in work and what we want to build. And that just being an incredible demographic to go after. What excites you both as you're talking to people and we're working with these demographics, and what you're seeing from them as they're using our product?
And in all fairness, I think the three of us can admit that 2 years ago, none of us thought that immigrants would be our best users.
Because people would say they can't pay for the product.
Because people say they can't pay, their English isn't as good, they're not from here, they don't understand the culture. But the reality is they're the most driven, they're the hungriest, they're the most hardworking, at least from the people that we've come across with. A lot of them are under very strict timelines in terms of they're on a student visa, they have to find a job in a certain time, they've come to a new country with that they don't understand the culture, the language, and pursued a degree, and they now have that degree and they now need to get a job. So they're willing to go down any avenue to make sure that they're skilled and that they're hireable. So they're going to be dedicated, and they've proven that they've been dedicated to our process, spending 60 minutes a day with us 5 days a week for as long as they need to prepare them for a job that fulfills their journey and that aligns with who they are and what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
They take our advice.
They take the advice.
Take the advice, because we're given very solid advice.
Tough advice.
Tough advice, yeah. We're given tough advice, but they follow it. And they're proving to be the most successful because they're following our advice.
And how much of that is like, that's such a statement, right? Like the ego people have get in the way of them being able to get towards their dream careers. What do we see among the younger people that are coming to Audo? Like, what are they saying in like these conversations you're having?
Our younger, especially Gen Z demographic, I particularly enjoy the most, because you get to see a lot of these aha moments as they're on this journey with us.
We've had high school students.
We've had plenty of high school students with us. And one of the things that most common questions we get, especially from our Gen Z demographic, right in our first few calls with them is, well, what job pays the most, or what industry, or what can I do to make me the most money, or I want to make, 6 figures, and what job can I do? And it's just helping them understand that mindset, number one, isn't going to make them happy, and number two, that's not the approach you want to take. So yeah, I very much enjoy working with them, but it's basic things like, what am I good at? What can I do? I don't have any skills. And by the time they go through our process, they realize that they actually do have skills. They understand what those skills are. They understand which those skills, how they're translatable to what industry, and how to target organizations that align with their beliefs that they think will make them happy and successful at that organization.
That's so empowering as an individual, right? Like from the traditional school system, that's like you either fit in our box or you're bad at it and you get an F, and like and then they tell you you're bad at things it's just not right.
I mean, growing up, I didn't search, companies' missions and values and look at where they did charity work. I just went for the job that I thought most aligned with my major. And this generation very much has taken what I think is the right approach, which is, I have a lot to offer, and I want to make sure that the place that I'm going to spend and invest a lot of time in, that their values align with mine, and that they're going to support my mission. And that's what this generation is really good about.
One of the topics that we've heard brought up at this conference at TechCrunch this week has been building cultures and how to build cultures, especially in tough economic climates and so on. But one of the things they advise that's super important is to think about bad cultures you've worked in the past, and how to use that to inform what you do going forward. So we're a small team right now, right? There's the 3 of us, we have a product designer, and we have some engineers remotely and so on. When eventually we have the opportunity to build a larger team. What are you both thinking about, as we think about building a culture going forward, and like what we want to use as how we bring people in and get them excited about what we're doing, and so on?
Well, I mean, for me, the most important thing is that if you're not passionate about what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to solve in the space that we play in, irrespective of how talented you are, this is not going to be a good fit. So if you're not bought in, and I'm not bought into your belief into joining what we're building, then there's no sense in wasting anyone's time. I think if that passion comes across, then there's definitely a place for you.
Yep. Having people that are very, like you said, very passionate about helping people, that aren't just here for the paycheck, that actually want to, get excited when one of our users, get that job that they've really been striving for.
Hear back from a recruiter.
Hear back from a recruiter. Receive some success metrics, and the success metrics isn't always the same for every user, because when we're working with someone, a high school student, the success metrics is obviously different than someone who's unemployed looking for a job and needs to pay their bills. But still, reaching those success metrics, making individuals happy, and then also having a lot of individuals from the team having buy-in and getting the opportunity to be part of the recruitment process, or the process of speaking to the individuals that we might be potential hiring. Because everyone on our team, we do enjoy having there, so we want everyone to have buy-in with new employees. I
mean, we really truly do work as a team. We work across time zones, across languages, across specialties. We don't have egos. We help each other out. People don't have to ask for help, which is very important for us. And that's the type of kind of mindset and attitude that we want people to adapt and help us get better at.
I love it. Okay, last few things. Anything we want to bring up that you all are thinking about?
Ours is different, right? The reason for those individuals who are looking to upskill, they know exactly why they're upskilling and what that's going to get them to. And that's why our users are completing all their courses. I mean, it's almost at 100%. Versus your line manager coming to you and saying, hey, Milan, we're going to give you $300 a year to go and spend on whatever it is that you want to learn. What is the likelihood of you ever even logging into that platform? And if you do, you're just like, geez, there's 20,000 courses. Where do I start?
Yeah. So it's the way that they approach it that's completely different from ours. Like, they just are offering access. We're tailoring an experience. When we look at what the future of career tech looks like, or what the future of work looks like in general, we as a company in general look at education as a means to an end. That end being landing a job. And that inevitably has interesting implications for what the process is going to look like to land that job, and what the educational experiences are going to look like along that. And we have the pleasure of innovating on that process. What is one of the approaches, or one of the visions that we have for the future of work that you all are at least really excited to bring to life?
Yeah, I mean, speaking from a tech nerd side, we have a couple very cool features that are, that in our product market fit have been showing a lot of excitement for. And one of them is it's almost like a stock trading, where it's showing your value, how it increases and decreases over time, based on events that happen in the real world. So for instance, prompt engineering comes out as a skill in November 2022. All of a sudden, those that had prompt engineering as a skill, all of a sudden they saw their salaries rise like a short squeeze.
So this is like a resume stock market ticker, right?
Exactly. And it's showing how aspects of your resume have an effect on your value. And if you're a writer and all of a sudden prompt engineering comes out, ChatGPT comes out, it drops like a falling knife. And we're going to provide you advice on how to improve yourself, how to get additional skills, how to add prompt engineering, or something that relates to your abilities that will also help you on your career journey. And then it also compares you to other peers within your profession, so your other colleagues. So then it's telling you, sort of when you're looking at a stock app and it's showing you how the relative scale against the S&P 500, we're showing you against your peers, how it is the standard. And then another exciting one was the career navigator, where we're showing you how different paths to get you to your end career goal. If your end career goal is to be the director of engineering or a director of product management at a large company, we're going to show you different paths to get there. We're going to give you advice on which one's the shortest, which one might be the little bit more lucrative on the way to the director of engineering role, but we're going to show you different paths and we're going to tell you how to get there step by step.
It's seeing real-time value of your skills translated into your resume, right? People check their bank accounts every day because they want to know how much money they have so they can figure out what decisions to make in their life. People check social media every day because they want to know what's going on. People check LinkedIn every day because they're either looking for a job or want to know what's happening with the industry they play in. But nobody knows how their value is changing every single day, whether it's something they can control, which is what I'm consuming and what skills I'm gaining. Also, what are the socioeconomic factors that can help or hinder me as a worker, as an employee, right? So a certain technology comes out, like Andrew was saying, does that help me or does that hinder me? And then if it hinders me, I need to look at myself and figure out what skills do I have and where those skills can translate into another industry and how soon can I do that and pivot. Or if I'm completely happy in my career and I'm making good money, no one comes and tells you that, guess what, right now, if you learn prompt and generative engineering, that you can double your salary. These are the things that our tech will be able to help people determine live on a daily basis. That again, no one is doing.
It's next level transparency, like for the whole process.
Absolutely.
Like where your money and your time is going into for education and your work to make sure you get an ROI on it.
Exactly.
It's incredible.